So, hello, Boycie again, sitting with my basement doing the Barrelback, and it's long overdue. I think that I start making another video, as it's been a few months actually, and had a few months off for a lot of reasons. A lot of things have changed, but here I am back at home again, and I thought it's time to pick up the chisels and start doing some work. So what's been going on? Well, firstly, I've retired. After 33 years of flying planes for British Airways on the A380, the last 7, I have retired. Decided it was time to go. Actually, you get to 65 and you got to go. You can't fly commercially anymore. So knew it was coming, and very happy to go. Actually, it's been good. So got a lot more free time now to crack on with the boat. What else has been happening? Well, we've started building a house, and more importantly a garage with it. It's finally, this is Portugal after all, and they do love their bureaucracy, and it's taken almost 2 years to get to this point. But we found a fantastic company led by a German who's started up a business actually just down the road, building houses in a factory, modular houses, but it's all automated in computerized CNC machines, and they make walls that are 25 centimeters thick of solid wood. Amazing, amazing place, amazing man. And he's done us a deal that we couldn't say no to. And he builds in fact, they start this week in the factory. They're doing the foundations now. He says in 6 weeks the house will be built. You have to do everything like switches, plugs, the floors, the roof, the windows, everything has to be predetermined from the architect's point of view, so that they can go out and buy the things. They fit obviously the windows in the factory. So he reckons 6 weeks, and then 2 weeks to put the house up, crane it all into place. All the walls and all of that just come in separately, and then the roof last of all. And he says we should be in by July. That's still on schedule, so we'll see how we go. And then that means I can get this boat out of this basement and put it together again in a garage and actually start building. What have I been doing on the boat? Well, I've had about a week at it so far. If you remember last time I'd been putting all the stringers in here. We had an issue with these here that required formers to push this wood out so that it would fare better from that curve down to a fairly straight piece of wood there. So I calculated and made these formers, and I had to do the other side, which I've now done, and they're all in place. Few problems. This piece here, the lower piece, that's snapped. That's actually the 4th piece of wood I've made there, and it started to crack just here. You can see the crack just there, and I just caught it. So I was steaming it, and I did it just gently, and I've just had to put these clamps in there to stop it splitting anymore. And so what I decided to do was to glue this to the former, and I've done these to clamp them all into place wherever I can, so that that would then take the wood, the strain of the wood, and stop it splitting anymore. And then that I'll just have to sand out. So I'm pretty much at the fairing stage now. All of these are all done. Some of them are screwed in, but they're mostly just clamped into place, so these can all come out. But I can start fairing all of these frames in, the keel plates, the stem section. It's moving on another stage, and then from this stage, after fairing, I am into skinning the boat. So I've still got to cut these off, but anyway, they're all in, and it's a pretty rude corner, this curve around here. That's just a slight, I don't know what that is. This was kind of interesting area, because this, if you remember, right back at the beginning, it was 12 degrees, and you can see that piece of wood doesn't want to sit at 12 degrees. So that's got to be bent out, which is why I've left these. This has got to come out, and so I either put another former in to do those, but it seems just a minuscule, or I run a piece of wood across from the other side and once I can screw these in and get them just to push that bit of wood out. Obviously you need these to be screwed in, so I'll have to do that, I think, when we get to the next garage, where I can glue and screw these all in and then push them out. So once I've got that angle right, so it's coming in at the 12 degrees, then I can put the skin on, let that dry, and then I should be able to take those formers out and it would stay there. One thing that's been time pressing is an engine. Gosh, that's been quite a trial. I tried to go to the Düsseldorf boat show in Germany last year, but COVID cancelled it. But it was open this year, so we've been and had a couple of days to tour around. Enormous boat show. There's about 12 huge halls. I mean, there's one of them just for diving equipment, for goodness sake. Another couple of them had pools in with kids being dragged over with their surfboards and stuff. But anyway, the one hall was just for the engines. So I had the dimensions of this. I went there with an open mind. I got a quote for an electric setup, which was 75,000 euros. So I pretty much knew that it wasn't going to be an electric engine, much as I would like to. I mean, I just don't have 75,000, and I've got even crazier quotes than that. So it's going to be a petrol or a diesel, and went to Volvo Penta first, and their engines were just huge. They were 600 kilos, they were way too heavy, and they wouldn't fit in the allotted space. I've got the dimensions here, and it's the most restrictive is the height of the engine, it seems, to get inside the roof of this, or the decking of this thing. Yanmar came up with the best option. They had a 4-cylinder turbocharged 250 horsepower diesel engine. It looked really smart, with a gearbox angled down at 7 degrees, and it looked as though I could just about wedge that in. So we went through all the bits and pieces. He referred me to the guy next stand who did the propellers and the gearboxes and stuff. Very knowledgeable guy, can produce all the shaft, the drilling stuff for the hole for the prop shaft, and design the propeller, give me exact design that I need. And then I realized that the angle of the gearbox is 8 degrees, and this requires 15 degrees, which means tilting the engine down, which raised the top of the engine up, and I calculated by 53 millimeters, which put it through the roof. So the Yanmar engine ain't going to fit. So that was disappointing. So I came away from the show really empty-handed. I was all set to buy an engine if I could. The other thing was the Yanmar engine was 40,000 euros for a brand new engine. 40,000 frigging euros. And that will be plus taxes, and that's plus a gearbox, the prop shaft and all the bits. So, I mean, 45,000. I thought, geez, we must be able to do better than this. But it didn't fit. So, you know, that was out of the question. So I've been spending my time digging around, researching, looking for engines. And I think the original fit of these things is a V6 or a V8, because now the cylinders are canted at 45 degrees out, and that reduces the height. And that is in fact true. Finding one, however, is a bitch. I haven't found one yet. I've spoken to many different people. They're a lot cheaper, a lot more reasonable, but they're old Chevrolet engines. They're not even overhead cams. Well, obviously you can't, because it increases the headspace. They're single camshaft with push rods, so they're very much old worldy engines, which will no doubt slurp fuel like it's going out of fashion. But that seems to be what the boat is designed for, and that's really what I'm looking at the minute. And that's the operative word. I'm still looking, and I haven't found anyone that can offer. I've looked this morning and I found a Hyundai diesel that looks more like it, because it's a V6 engine, and it's half that price, so it's going to be about 20,000 quid. And if that's what you got to pay, that's what you got to pay. I found a guy on eBay that was selling a Mercruiser, and it had a stern drive, so that was the lifting propeller on the back. Obviously this is a prop shaft, but he was willing to disconnect it and sell them separately. And that looked really good. I was about to go to the UK and go and have a look at this. It was a V6 petrol engine from a Volkswagen origin, but coupled to a Mercruiser stern drive. Anyway, he just rang me up and said, sorry mate, I've sold it. So thanks very much for wasting my time, but hey ho, that's the way it is, isn't it? So I'm still very much in the market for an engine, and probably a V6 would be good. The 220 to 250 horsepower looks as though that it will make this thing shift. And anybody got any suggestions or have got one in their backyard that they don't want anymore, I'm open to all suggestions. So that leaves me back to today, and now that I've finished that the front stringers and I'm in the middle of gluing them up, I've just done 2, so it's using all my clamps up, and I'll do another 2 tomorrow. And then I'm going to start fairing. So I'll start down the back here because this is pretty much flat and these are going to be pretty easy. So most of those are pretty level down here. This thing I'm going to do a video on how to do that. Most of these are pretty flat, so there's minimal fairing, possibly get a centre line along the keel plate. The fun comes when I get up there towards the front and the bow section. These again are looking pretty straw. These are all pretty faired in. Little bit of curvature on those frames because they're being angled in to that's pretty straightforward. The fun comes down there at the back of the barrelback to fair those. There's like 5 pieces of wooded in there, so that's going to be a major planing affair to get that sorted. And then I really am stuck because once I've done the fairing, I'm into planking. It's going to be a great point in the build because it really will make this look like a boat then, and it looks like you're really cracking on. Although I read that once you've done the planking and you turn the boat over, you're a third of the way through. So we're a long way off yet, but hey, it's you know, it's the journey that's important. And now I'm retired, I've got a lot more time to do it. So I'm going to clean up what I've got here at the moment, and I've been learning how to weld. That's the other thing. I've been looking at trailers, massively expensive, and I thought, if you've got the time, why don't you build a trailer? I don't know how to weld. So I went on a little course for a couple of days, and I bought myself a welding machine, which is on its way over. I've had a go with some stick welding, not so good on the thin box section, sort of 3.5mm steel. You burn the holes quite a lot. MIG welding, it seems to be the answer, because you have the roll of wire and it feeds the wire in through the nozzle, and that forms the electrode and the arc. But you need gas with MIG welding, and I bought some bottles of gas, put it into Portugal removals, and the carrier refused carriage, says, oh no, it's a gas. I said, it's inert gas, it's bloody argon. No, can't take that, mate. That's because he's got this mindset, gas is a no-no. So I've got to try and find somewhere, when I've got the machine here and look at the connections, if I can find the gas here. There is gasless MIG welding, but it's apparently very fumy and only good for outside. Also, you need to get good. I bought the plans, and so I'm going to buy some steel and I'm going to have a go at making it myself. Not sure if that's going to work, but the plans look pretty straightforward, and this thing I think is going to be about 1,200 kilos, something like that, all up, 1,500 at the tops. So you need a brake trailer, but with just 2-wheel axle, which should work okay. And of course I need a car to tow it, won't I? But I'll worry about that in a year or two when I'm getting to that stage. So that's where I am. I'm going to crack on, put a couple of bits in towards the videos. I'm going to start sanding and planing and see how we go here, and we'll crack on. Ciao. Time for a quick update. Spent a lot of hours here doing this, and the problem, if you recall, was getting this here just becomes such a tight corner, this bit, to get that to fair in there. Yeah, the problem was that these here, as you can see, they must be what, at about a 45-degree angle there, and as they come in here I had them bolted tight against this, so they're twisting through 45 degrees, and that was just too tight. And as you can see, what I've done is I've back that off a little bit there with some fillets. In fact, I managed to get a whole wedge in the bottom of this one here. So by fairing that down even more, that line there, I've managed to get these to touch. However, that bottom one there is still too tight. And the only way that I can get the wood to meet it is to put a fillet in there, which is this. You can see how slim that is, and then I shall screw that on there. And that's not ideal, but it's a tiny bit of the surface area here, and there's such a curve on that wood that it gives its innate strength in itself. But it now touches that, and it touches this piece of wood here. And as you can see, that's quite a, that line there drops, well, it looks as though it drops down quite a lot, but actually what I've done is to mark a pencil line along there to keep that line running, and if you look along that line you can see it's now running straight, so that the chine will at least run straight up to the front of the boat. But when you're coming to build this, for any of you guys that are doing it, the answer is that when you cut this piece of wood here, you want to draw a line of where you think that, when you fair off the nose stem, where that will come. And you want that to touch that line. And you can see here that I'm short. This one's good, that one's short, and that one's good. And so what I've got to do is, when I've stuck these in, is to put a little tiny fillet there, just fair it out there, which would be easy to do. And just to make sure that that plywood touches there on just two of them. So the other side is actually much better. I don't think I need to do it. You can see there where the wood cracks, and I drilled a hole actually first, but it's this wood. It's Douglas fir, and I wouldn't recommend using Douglas fir. It splinters too quickly, and it seems to dry out, and even though I steamed these to within an inch of their life, they still didn't want to bend. And in fact this one, as you know, on the bottom here is cracked, but I've just caught that, and I've managed to stop that splitting anymore by gluing these to the formers behind. So there's an awful lot of hours and time and work gone into doing this bit to get this right, and I think I'm pretty much there. I don't know how I'm going to hold that wood. I guess this bit I'm going to have to steam in order to get that plywood to bend round that corner, and once I get back to here, then it's fine, and from then on back it's kind of easy, or at least the curve is isn't so bad. I mean, I can show you there, look, you see there, it's touching all the formers, it's looking good, and we get to this bit and we're still okay there, it's tight, but from about there on, this piece of wood here, this bit, is getting too tight. It's touching nicely at the top and on the chine, so I need that that fillet there just to bring that wood out a little bit. And I'm not quite sure, I haven't faired that wood down or reduced it in its thickness, but that, I think if I'd have brought that up a little bit further up to there, it would have brought that wood out, which might have made the difference. So I think the lesson to take away from this one is to be far more accurate when you're cutting that, which I thought I did, to be honest, because you cut it down with a Japanese saw, just, I mean, like a couple of millimeters each time until you get it in there, but you've just got to be more careful to make sure that that piece of wood comes up to your line here exactly, and then you'll get a smooth joint. Like, I mean, like that one is I mean, that's perfect there. This is good at the chine. That one's good. This one is good here, and that one is because it's such a you can see there, that's probably what, 45 degrees. This is almost 60 degrees. This fine point of the bow here, it changes that all the way through. But it's, I think you can see it's looking good because you get a fair curve there on the top, on the curve of the stem and that bit there. Oh, to be a proper carpenter, and then you wouldn't have to learn with mistakes like this. But it's doable. You can always, I thought about actually just cutting that piece of wood off back there, scarfing another piece on and recutting it, and actually thinking about that when I come to do the when I come to fit this in the garage and glue it all, that might well be an idea, and then I could rejig that one and bring it out to there, because I now know exactly where I'm coming. Maybe that's the answer, is to have fed this nose stem off first, so you know where it is, and then bring this up exactly to your line there. I mean, but a pencil line, or I used a green ink pen, as you can see there, would do exactly the same. But it would save you a lot of time and heartache and sitting there scratching your nut going, how the hell am I going to do this? Always knew this was going to be the hardest part. The barrel back at the end there is also going to take a lot of wood. There's about 5 of these pieces all together there. That's going to require considerable fairing, and I'm upside down as well, which is going to be a problem. But this so far has taken the most work to get to work out how to keep the curve on these sections without forcing, because they were just a straight line, and this has forced the curve out, and it's a diminishing curve down to there. So I'm very happy with how that's worked. That'll be good. So once I've done this top section all the way back, I think I might have a go at fairing these, which is really just going to be this bit at the chine. There's a little bit of fairing on these bits to do, but there's not much at all. And these have all come out pretty damn well, but it's just the light sanding with the belt sander, and they're pretty much there. Whew-wee. So that's today's video, which is kind of good news actually. It's okay. I'm going to crack on, I think, and I'm going to do the keel plate now. I'm going to take it apart, because there's 2 bits there, glue them, and I might glue that bit on there for the time being, but I think I'll change those 2 when I come to fix them and glue them permanently, and then do those bits again, because that's this bit here. I mean, I did think about, this is the 4th piece and it's still splitting, so that's now glued to this former, as is that one. I've got these 2 to do, so I'll have a bit of a gluing session today and see how we go. So there we go. This morning, what have I done? I started gluing these 2 here to the stringers there, to the formers at the back. Why did I do that? Just because it kept on cracking. So this one here, this is actually the 4th piece of wood that I've put on here. I don't know whether just leaving this over well, they've been sat around here for nearly 2 years, I think, in storage, and each one is cracking. They all just split completely, but this one I caught just in time. So I thought the way around this is to glue that to the former, and then I can sand this out. The strength of that will be obviously given by the former behind it, which is not ideal, but buying some new pieces of wood and doing it all again. But I mean, I steamed that one a good 3 or 4 hours with my Karcher steamer down here, and I thought it was going okay. I just put it in a little bit and then left it overnight, steamed it again the next day, and then pulled it in, and then it just cracked, and I just caught it by just releasing that quickly. So I'll have a think about that, but that shouldn't affect the strength. That should be okay now that I've put these doublers in. So I've done the bottom 2, I've got 2 more up here to do, and then I can crack on the other side. These bits here, I've taken them off because they're too, I've got the line here when I've got the center line here, so when I fair that back to there, it's going to appear there somewhere. So this has really got to start on that line, and these were kind of hanging over. As you can see, all of these are roughly down. That one's come in a little bit low, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. Maybe when I have to shift this thing forward and then put a little doubler in the back there. But I mean, we're talking millimeters here. Or maybe just fancy it with a little piece of plywood or something. And but I've got to move that one forward, get these back. Otherwise, they're all okay. Everything looks okay. I think the other side we're good. Yeah, they're pretty straight there. Those again can come back a little bit. That one can come back a little bit. So I've been starting to do a bit of the fairing down the back end here of the ship, and how I did it, well, that's how I did it there. I can show you. To get the line, you just put the saw in there. Let's put the Japanese saw there, like so. So it's lining flat there, then that gives you the line at the bottom you've got to cut to. So you do that with both of them, and you just draw a straight line, and that's the line to fair down to. And then what I did on the inside was to put a pencil line just there, and then when you start taking the pencil line off, you know that that is going to be about flat with that. And the test was just to, if I laid my piece of plywood there on there, then does it Sorry, that's bouncing up. We've got to screw that down, haven't we? But if you look at that, that's a pretty perfect flat fit there for the plywood, so that'll get good adhesion on all of the sides there. So this one I've planed down, and it was quite easy to do. Of course, there's always a problem, isn't there? And I think I mentioned it before that when I was doing the transom here, this was angled at 12 degrees because it comes into the barrelback. And these pieces of wood here, obviously between the frames, take up a straight line, and so they weren't really coming in at 12 degrees by any means. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I could either put the former in there or I'll just brace it, which is what I've done here against the engine stringer, and it pushes it out, but it's still not quite right. So I started putting some more bits of plywood in there, filler, to push it out even further. And then when you look down the line here, you can see there I've got a nice curve. Actually, that's done well. That's pushing it in a nice curve. And if I push that out further, then it dipped in and then it came out and then it curved in and it made the 12 degrees, but it created a ridiculous bubble there. So I kind of took the plywood out and went back to my original piece of wood here, which was just long enough to make that curve. You can see the curve in there, but it's still not making the 12 degrees here for the rear transom, and so I can't see the way through that. I'm going to have to plane that bit off because I can't seem to make that. I don't quite know how that makes the 12 degrees there. So after that, I think the only thing I can do is just fair that transom, that little bump. I mean, it's like a millimetre, 2 millimetres there, to fair that off and just go with the curve. This bit here, obviously being a thicker bit of wood at the chine, I've braced that out and pushed it out a little bit, but it is a bugger to move because it's obviously a thicker piece of wood. I don't know. I'm not going to do it just yet because I'm going to do this piece all the way along and flatten these off. I run the sander across the top there, as you can see, and just perfectly flat, and it's making a good mating surface. Drawn a centre line down the keel plate here, and then I'll start planing that. But it's difficult to get in, so I think what I'm going to try and do is to take off these stringers here so that I can get inside, stand in the frame, and then I can plane this down, because up there I've got quite a bit of planing to do. But I'll crack on with this and see how we go. Right. Hello again. Well, as you can see by the amount of sawdust on the boat, I'm busy fairing in and planing, and it's going quite well. That is working out very well there. You're getting a nice smooth joint to the look at that, there's no gaps there, and this is looking good. When you mark that line out though, you do have to look along there, because the slightest bump, I mean, like, you know, 0.5 millimetre, and you see it, and it just takes a quick plane to knock it out. But so I've done up to here, and that's looking okay. This one is getting a little bit of a curve on there now. I've got to take a little bit more off just down here, and this one I'm currently working on, because now we're starting to get to a serious curve, which is leading me up to the bit that I'm really dreading, which is at the front. I mean, they're going to be at 45 degrees, and you can see now I'm going to have to steam these to get those in. And this one here, well, at the moment, I don't know how we get that to touch that and this piece of wood. So I'm thinking of all the different options here. I guess everybody has this this problem. I can start fairing this chine off here, which will work sort of like that, but that's got to go in, but it's missing that. So I'm wondering whether I've got to add a filler behind that piece there and bring that piece of wood out, or in fact add another piece of wood on top of it altogether to give that half a chance of bending that in. Jesus, this is the bit I've been dreading, actually, this bit, because this is so hard to get that plywood to work. You can see I've started taking off the the stem there, and it takes a long time to plane it all off and to get that line straight, but that's working okay. We're fine up to there. I guess up to there we're kind of getting a little bit more work to be done there, but I'm thinking, you know what, to add another piece of wood onto here, not quite sure how it's going to work there. That's the only trouble. As you can see, that's got to come, that there has to be fed in a little bit more yet, and I've still got to hit the center line, so I'm just touching on these places at the moment. And then what to do with this, I'm sort of loath to plane this, because once you take the wood off, obviously you can't add it anymore. So I stopped, and I thought I'm just going to go away and think about that for a night, and I thought about it for a night, and I think I need to think about it for another night before I can do anything on this. So that's where we are. This is going to be the difficult bit. I knew that all the way along. These bits are going to be pretty straightforward. I'll do the same, put a couple of cuts in there, and then I can fair those in all the way. They're looking good. I've put all of these, sunk all of these stringers down so that they're all pretty, except that one, but they're all pretty there. And there's there's a cock up. When I was lining up my jig, I put it on the wrong marks and I chopped the wrong bit out. I've no idea why, but you do make these cock-ups every now and then. But as I was saying, the other hard bit's there, and also at the back there where this chine meets the transom, there's about 5 pieces of wood there, and they'll also need considerable fairing in. Not quite sure how that's going to work, and of course I've got to do it all from the floor because it's right at the bottom until I can flip the boat over, but by then the skin will be on. So so there you go. I'm going to pause it for a minute, and I'm going to go away and think about it. Right, hopefully we're on. So today I've bitten the bullet, and those 2 top stringers, the ones that won't fit correctly to the stem section, decided to cut them off. Here they are here. And then rescarf on a piece of wood back on the frame here, over the frame, so that it won't be under much stress. I can put a screw through it, that will keep it solid, and it's under no twist at all here, so that shouldn't be a problem. And by putting the scarf there over the frame, I think that will keep it at the strongest point. And then I'm just going to refit it up the front now that I've got my line and I've shaped the stem section to the bow shape. So I'm back here. This doesn't look much, but this is my jig. Here's my piece of wood that I've taken the one off the back, and I need to put a scarf in there. And I've cut another section of wood here, which was the same length as the piece I've cut off, plus a little bit more. And I'll just run the the circular saw through, and then it just cuts it. It works incredibly well. Just minor amendments. I just have to wedge the wood down with this piece of wood. I've got this thing here which I move into place, and it wedges the wood against there so that it won't move while I'm cutting it. And that's all the hard bit, the preparation. The easy bit is actually cutting it. So here goes. So there's one bit done. Good scarf. Good scarf. So second piece of wood. I just need to line that in. There's the offcut. In there, wedge it in, and wedge that down. Second piece. Here's my second piece of wood. Take away my offcut. And then I just need the last piece of wood, which is, look at that, it just came with a crack already in it. So I'm hoping that is going to be long enough. Let's cut that piece of wood. So if I make the scarf about there, that's a waste piece of wood, and that is it. I can get this screw out, so I can take this piece of wood off. I can't, but never mind, I'll have a look at that in a second. So there's my two pieces of wood. There is the old stringers ready to scarf, so I'll get them glued up. And as you can see, it's pretty easy. Right, hopefully we're on. So, today I've bitten the bullet, and those two top stringers, the ones that won't fit correctly to the stem section, decided to cut them off. Here they are here. And then rescarf on a piece of wood back on the frame here, over the frame, so that it will it won't be under much stress. I can put a screw through it, that will keep it solid, and it's under no twist at all here, so that shouldn't be a problem. And by putting the scarf there over the frame, I think that will keep it at the strongest point. And then I'm just going to refit it up the front now that I've got my line and I've shaped the stem section to the bow shape. So I'm back here. This doesn't look much, but this is my jig. Here's my piece of wood that I've taken the bonnet off the back, and I need to put a scarf in there. And I've cut another section of wood here, which was the same length as the piece I've cut off, plus a little bit more. And I'll just run the the circular saw through, and then it just cuts it. It works incredibly well. Just minor amendments. I just have to wedge the wood down with this piece of wood. I've got this thing here which I move into place, and it wedges the wood against there so that it won't move while I'm cutting it. And that's all the hard bit, the preparation. The easy bit is actually cutting it. So here goes. So there's one bit done. Good scarf. Good scarf. So second piece of wood. I just need to line that in. There's the offcut. In there, wedge it in, and wedge that down. Second piece. Here's my second piece of wood. take away my offcut. And then I just need the last piece of wood, which is, look at that, it just came with a crack already in it. So I'm hoping that is going to be long enough. Let's cut that piece of wood. So if I make the scarf about there, that's a waste piece of wood, and that is it. I can get this screw out, so I can take this piece of wood off. I can't, but never mind, I'll have a look at that in a second. So there's my two pieces of wood. There is the old stringers ready to scarf, so I'll get them glued up, and as you can see, it's pretty easy.